every year, just as winter sets in, Easton, Pennsylvania goes crazy over high school wrestling.
The thing about Easton Wrestling is that it's not just the kids that are here today, but it's their parents that were involved, their grandparents that have been involved. Easton Wrestling began in 1948, has over 600 wins now, and there's probably someone on every block in this community that has either wrestled or had a wrestler in their family.
Easton, certainly, the word community kind of sums it up. It is just a great, great community that supports kids, supports athletics, supports academics, and they know where their kids are and what they're doing. The wrestling program in Easton is just stands out from any program anywhere in the country.
Oh, the Easton Wrestling program has always been a fantastic program. Our booster club is one of the best. There are people in other schools that come to our coaches and Ray Ferraro and ask, how do you do it?
When Matt and Jake won the states, I mean, it was like winning the states yourself because we're involved with them. And they know it. The kids also know what we do for them. They know when we raise the money to send them to Reno, that makes them better.
It's not just a booster club, but you see following for many, many years. There's faces there that were there when I was in high school.
We'll put 2,000-3,000 parents in the stands for a wrestling match, and some of them have never had a child wrestle, and some of them have kids that are wrestling now, and some had kids wrestle years ago, and some of them just their neighbors are wrestling.
In fact, a couple years ago I went to the Easton Nazareth duel. You got to get there earlier, you don't get in. It's packed house, and the nice thing is I had a seat front and center, and I tell you what, there's nothing like Lehigh Valley Wrestling, and there's nothing like Easton Nazareth going at it, or Easton Peaburg, or any of those schools, because boy, I tell you what, they draw on the people, and it's exciting.
They wanted to start this wrestling program, and of course I was chosen to be the wrestling coach. And we started right from scratch, and I had kids that came out from all over Easton and the surrounding areas. I was fortunate that we had some strong kids, and we had some good seasons. The 3 seasons that I was there, and we had several district champions, and I had 1 state champion and 2 or 3 others who were runner-ups.
Gust was just the first in a string of extraordinary coaches that have brought Easton Wrestling to the level of prominence it enjoys today.
Well, I started here in 1951, and for 5 years I was Charlie Bartlett's assistant. So he was my mentor in instruction about wrestling because I was fresh out of college. Well, Charlie was a great teacher of fundamentals, and that's exactly what Easton needed then. There was 1 midget team, and at that time, and he could simplify the basic moves of wrestling to the point that kids could learn.
Craig Fox, who I was only with for 1 year, became a state champion. Then next year we had Barry Snyder graduating, who is now the current assistant coach at Easton, and Eddie Ferraro, who's also an assistant coach at Easton on the same team. Well, that team was really a terrific team. They had 5 district champions, and you had to win to advance. 5 regional champions, and Chico Lutz, another member of that team, and the most exciting wrestler I ever coached as far as action, went on to win the state title, and Bobby Pratt was on that team, and Barry, they came in second. But they were so great, we went out with 5 guys to the States. When they walked in there, they voted right away and gave me Coach of the Year.
Had there been team scoring back at that time, we would have won. I'm pretty sure we would have had enough team points to win the state title. It was very rare to have 2 or 3 guys in the States, and we walked out there with 5 guys. It was quite a sight.
The next year, 1970, we had Brad Weaver, and then 71, We had Brad Weaver again with a few other good kids with a guy named Rocky Criazzo.
Dave Kroll brings a calmness to the table that I think I've never seen in any other wrestling coach.
He taught you how to be a great wrestler, and the reason he taught you a great wrestler isn't was he didn't teach fancy moves, he taught you basic moves. And he taught you to do the little things, that were simple to do right.
It's not just one area of wrestling where you can improve. There's so many different areas. So someone that has a good, solid, strong personal characteristics are going to be the ones that will probably succeed because they're going to find a way to do it. I've always said that even coaches themselves really have no excuses not to be successful wrestling if they're really motivated.
Dave Kroll, he's been like a father figure to me. Whenever I have a problem or question, I don't hesitate to give Dave a call.
Current coach Steve Powell has continued the legacy of success.
With the tradition and the pride in the program, kids are glad to be state champs and they're glad to be varsity, but they're also honored to be the JV kid and be a part of the room and realize that with the hard work and improvement that someday they'll be the starting guy and get the chance at a state championship.
Dozens of champions have wrestled for Easton since the program began 53 years ago.
It's a well-known fact throughout the country that the best wrestling in the country is in the Lehigh Valley. And if you were to push people for a school, I would guarantee that the majority would tell you that the best wrestling is at Easton High School.
People really look to Easton itself, I think, as kind of the model of high school wrestling in a way, and they say, well, how do you do it in Easton? Because that's the way it must be done the best, because they consistently produce champions year in and year out. Not just champions, but championship teams. And that, to me, is a tribute to the program. It's not just individuals, but it's whole teams that come in and year out.
I went out to school out by Pittsburgh, but I've been to other places, and when they see my Easton wrestling jacket, people come right up to me and they say, "You're from Easton. I've seen you guys wrestle down in Delaware. I saw you guys out in Reno." And people everybody around the country has heard of Easton wrestling no matter where you go.
Many outstanding wrestlers, not just from Easton, but from other areas of the Valley, got their start in midget or Little League wrestling in the Penn Jersey League at St. Anthony's.
St. Anthony's tradition is found throughout the whole Lehigh Valley. Easton's are throughout the whole country. Our goal is that someday we want to see their names up on the board when we come to Easton High School. And we want to see them wrestling varsity for Easton. That's what we want.
They really work hard. They do.
I wrestled for St. Anthony's Youth Center, and back at that time, it was the first league that was formed in the United States. It was called the Penn Jersey League. And we were all basketball players. And this director, Tom Buba, took us off the basketball court to wrestle. And that's pretty much how it started.
I do remember one time Dick used to run a tournament of midgets, and the way the tournament was run, sometimes two boys on the same team, like the same St. Anthony's team, had to wrestle each other. And one year, Ricky Thompson and Rocky Criazzo had to wrestle each other. And it was very difficult for Dick and for those of us who were fans of both boys. But they had to go into overtime, and Ricky Thompson won. But I remember Dick holding his arms out to both of them and hugging them.
Feeder program, what we try to teach the kids is discipline, technique-wise, hard work, and stay with just to stay with it. We practice hard and we practice every day just so they get the feel for what it's going to be like as they move up into the different levels of wrestling for Easton.
In the 50-plus years of Easton wrestling, there have been dozens of extraordinary wrestlers and memorable contests. Command of technique is characteristic of Red Rover wrestling.
basics, and the basics worked against the best teams because I was taught not to worry about being flashy or this and that with moves. It was just to do a couple things and do them real well, and Easton taught basics like that. Great coaching. Also, my assistant was Steve Powell, who's the head coach now at Easton High School.
Even in a mismatch of a high school wrestling match or a college match, there's always going to be 2 or 3 or 4 bouts where this is just plain going to be exciting. That someone's going to come down to the last 30 seconds and have to score, or someone's going to do a little extra, or someone's going to be winning and get pinned. There's just always going to be some element of excitement, surprise, that anything can happen.
Valley's in trouble. The Valley's in big trouble. This could be the bout we were talking about. It's a reverse cradle. Give him 6. Oh, my! Oh, my! 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Tom Ferrero turns the tables.
And then there's the streak. An unbroken line of district champions dating from the program's first year to the present. The wrestlers want to advance. They want to make sure that they're in the top 3 or 4 or whatever it takes to get to the next round. But the championships, the gold medal is very important. And at Easton, keeping that streak alive is about to make them #1 in the country.
The fortunate thing about it, the first year that we were in wrestling, we won the districts. We won the districts, which comprised of Allentown, Bethlehem, and a few other high schools.
Every now and then, a wrestler with extraordinary talent emerges. Jack Kuvo was one of them.
So always on my mind is wrestling. My brother John was a state champion in 1980, and he was a very big inspiration. Bobby Weaver, Olympic champion from Easton, was another inspiration. I had good role models.
Jack Kuvo was amazingly conditioned. He had tremendous endurance. I've never seen anybody with as much in the tank as Jack Kuvo had in the third period. And then, of course, there was Bobby Weaver, Easton's own Olympic gold medal winner.
Well, the first Easton wrestler I heard of was actually Bobby Weaver. I was working the '84 Olympic Games, and Bobby Weaver was on the team. He's from Lehigh University and also from Easton, and he's the hometown great, actually, one of the best to ever come out of the Valley.
course, the whole town was excited when Bobby Weaver was going to win that gold medal in Olympic wrestling, and we were all watching down here on television. And WEST got involved with that. We had someone riding in the car behind Bobby on the parade through the town, and it was just a memorable night to watch one of Easton's own with that gold medal.
Just as on the football field Thanksgiving Day, no wrestling rivalry is as strong as Easton Peaburg, and thousands of fans turn out each year for the match at Kirby Fieldhouse.
Well, the Easton Phillipsburg wrestling match is like every competition between Easton and Phillipsburg. It's heated, exciting, and hard to predict who's going to win.
Well, more than a wrestling match, it is. Easton and Phillipsburg is a social event. It's a family event. You have Bobby Weaver, who was a 3-time state champion at Easton, who coaches at Phillipsburg.
One thing Phillipsburg has going for us tonight is it's an even year, because Phillipsburg has not beaten Easton in an odd year since 1971.
It's going to be a great match, and I look forward to it. And Coach Patoro used to say that hay's in the barn at this point, and win or lose, they know that they've given a great effort, and I hope we all can be satisfied with tonight's match.
Oklahoma wrestled Iowa State and beat them in front of a crowd of 600 to 800 people. Lehigh Valley, you would have that for Easton and Phillipsburg playing chess.
We've brought people here to this match who don't know anything about wrestling, who have never experienced high school wrestling like this. And it's just a spectacle.
Tonight's Easton Phillipsburg wrestling, and there's no finer sporting event around. No matter what sport Easton Phillipsburg plays, there's always a heightened anticipation. And all I can say is, let's beat Peaburg.
Easton's enthusiasm for wrestling is a tradition as strong as the families who carry it from one generation to the next.
When we would go to Gus King's Pizza Shop and we'd have a slice of pizza, someone would come in and maybe pay for the pizza for you. And they would then tell you that they enjoyed watching you wrestle, even if it was at the midget level or the junior high level. And at that time you got the feeling that being a wrestler in the town of Easton was something special.
A lot of times tradition includes generation-to-generation participation. And this really makes it great, because then the next generation is stronger and better, and it's a challenge to the old man to see his kid out there winning more medals than he did. But it's a great thrill to see your own son, come through and participate and be a champion.
My brother Bill wrestled 2 years ahead of me. He was captain of his team his senior year. My cousin Gary had stopped wrestling by the time he was in high school. As I got a little older, my younger brother Russ followed along, and he was a pretty fair wrestler himself. He placed third in the States, and he was a very, very good wrestler in his own right. But my son and my brother's son, Russell, both wrestled at Easton. My son was a state champ, and Russell was a very good wrestler himself. So the family has been involved with Easton Wrestling for a long time.
I came through Forks Township, and I got started there just by kids in the neighborhood that were involved in wrestling, and my older brother. And originally I was going to go out for basketball when I was 7. And I just followed my brother one day to practice, and I just never stopped.
I mean, as a wrestler myself, I was just always pumped up. And now seeing the other side of Easton versus Nazareth, I mean, I love it.
There's certainly tradition, but I think you have to use the word like heritage is there, that you've been an Easton wrestler. I don't think we've ever had someone graduate and not come back the next year at Thanksgiving and Christmas and work out in the room.
It gets inside of you, and you just want to be a part of it.
Got a figure 4 and a head. He got the pin anyway. Trekker is in trouble. Brown is a finisher. Bad shot by Labash. You can't do that against Portobano. Paid the price. He sure did. But certainly Rizzo has come out on fire. Donaldson is in some serious trouble. Oh my, the fall at 59 seconds by Matt Lear. Matt Lear with a tremendous effort by the Red Rovers.
The lessons that Red Rover Wrestling teaches go far beyond athletic skill and sportsmanship.
The way I was taught was to always work, and I'm a worker. I'm a workaholic, and it's taught me that if you work hard, no matter what you do, even if it's selling wrestling shoes or T-shirts, if you work hard enough, you can be successful.
The work you put into it is what you get out of it. That as a junior high or midget wrestler, you want to become a sponge and learn as much as you can and gain as much as you can in technique, in strength, and that's kind of the way that anyone would tackle a business or any other project that they would go into.
Off the mat, I found that wrestling, as well as wrestling for Easton, gave me an unfair advantage, whether it was in the classroom, whether it was in the vocation, or raising my family. Right now I can tell that wrestling has always given me an unfair advantage over everybody else. The commitment and the enthusiasm and the work ethic that was developed from wrestling.
All the obstacles that you have to overcome in this sport make life a lot easier, I think.
Wrestling in itself makes you a much more responsible person. It really teaches you how to be dedicated. It teaches you what the true meaning of hard work is. And I think it really teaches you that you can achieve anything that you want to if you're willing to put the work into it.
Now, I believe many of these lessons come from the fact that wrestling is such an all-inclusive sport. There's nowhere, certainly it's not just the gifted athlete that is the successful one. It more often than not is the champions are the ones who dedicate themselves to it. Some sports you can be instant successes. Wrestling is not one of them.
I wouldn't change the experience of being the mother of a wrestler for anything in the world. I think that there are total benefits to being in the wrestling program. It builds self-confidence. It actually just makes you a more well-rounded person, and I think it was a wonderful experience for Jake, my husband, and I.